What's up, everybody? What is up? How are you doing tonight? It is a glorious Thursday night. The week is almost over. We are back to another weekend. And we asked last week, we said we're going to have some guests on. And we really wanted your input as audience members, as subscribers, followers of what we do. Who would be a guest that you wanted? There's a bunch of different names. We have some former, future, and present Tigers, some coaches, things like that in the works right now. But a name that a few of you put forth as someone you really thought was really top of the line as far as LSU analysis, and that's Zack Nagy of Sports Illustrated, who, you guys have probably seen him do shows with Preston Guy, Blake Ruffino on Are You Serious Sports. He's on quite a different collection of LSU media shows. This is his first time ever coming on our show, and we're really, really happy to have him on with us. So he should be coming on any second. We had a weird thing where sometimes I just don't know when the hell we're leaving work, and yeah, took a second there, but apologize for that delay, but he should be coming on with us at any moment here. Let's see. Rohan is always good content. That's what Daniel Glenn says. Yes, we really need to get with Rohan Davey and get some discussions going. Rohan Davey is the first ever LSU quarterback that I remember. So for me, having Rohan Davey on the show would be really cool. The late 90s, that's when I first started watching LSU. And so that's my era. Bruce Douglas says Nagy and Lon sounds like a great duo. Yeah. We'll see. What I really want to do is, you guys have heard so many of my takes with the 2025 team. And I think it's only proper and what a real newsman would do to have as many opinions on as possible. And here he is with us right now. Zack Nagy. Zack, what's up? Let's see. Can we see you on the screen? There you are. Zack, how you doing, brother? Can you hear me?
Yeah, my man. How we doing?
Doing fantastic, man. I'm just so glad got off work in time for this. Did not want to miss this. Thank you so much for joining us, Zack. You have a lot of fans, a lot of people who are supporting us, saying, "Hey, this is a guy you need to get on your show. This is a dude you need to get on your show." So really, thank you so much for taking the time with us tonight, man.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. I love talking LSU ball with anybody. You're a connoisseur yourself, so excited to talk a little bit of LSU. Obviously, spring camp's in the rearview mirror. We got some transfer portal buzz going on right now. It's an exciting time for LSU fans. So anytime I can talk LSU ball, man, I'm chomping at the bit. I do all I can. So excited to do it.
Anyone who sees this dude's output knows that that's what he's all ball. He probably put out like 15 articles a day. It's insane. But Zack, one thing I have always wondered, and I've never asked you this personally, I've never asked anyone else this, but I got to get this off my brain. I got to get this off my chest. You're not related, or are you related to Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl guy?
Man, I get that question so much, whether it's Matt Nagy, Jim Nagy. I get that question all the time. The answer, unfortunately, is no. I wish I was. I'd have maybe we'd be with other programs and stuff, be a little bit more plugged in and stuff. But no, unfortunately, I'm not. Nonetheless, cool to have the same last name. I love getting that question. It's a fun one.
I'm just like, it's a Hungarian name, and I'm like, that's such a rare name, and these guys got to be related. But there's a lot of Nagys in the football world, and you're one of them. So Zach, where are you from? What part of the country are you from?
Yeah, man, I'm New Orleans born and raised, straight up. I'm from New Orleans, born and raised, been in the boot my whole life. Um, Not much has changed. Right down the road from Baton Rouge. Went to school out in Lafayette, so I'm kind of in that middle ground right here in Baton Rouge now between New Orleans and Lafayette. So it kind of it works. It works perfect. It's the perfect spot for me. Perfect spot for my family. I can't complain. So Bayou State, born and raised.
That's awesome. I don't know why I had a national feel from it, but I didn't. I was like, I just want to ask him that question naturally. I'm not going to research his background even that much. I want to kind of just get to know him from his words.
Yeah.
But Zach, what really kind of got you going with? I want to cover sports. I want to write sports. I want to talk sports. That's what I want to do for a living.
Man, I played basketball my whole life. I played basketball through high school. Kind of just played as much ball as I could, and then I realized I'm about 6 feet tall, and it's not going to take me anywhere. So I wanted to be in the world of sports, and the best way to do that was really to just kind of get to writing and trying to find as many ways as I can to be involved in sports. And journalism kind of piqued my interest my senior year of high school. Got straight into went to college, and I didn't stop. So for me, just wanted to work in the world of sports, knowing I wasn't going to play too much after high school. I had to find a way that I could stay involved, and that's exactly what I got to do with this.
It seems like you've written for every publication. I swear. Like, what's some of the ones you've written for? You've Vermilion, clear to Sports Illustrated. Oh,
Yeah, man, I wrote for my school. I wrote growing up. Contributed with a couple of different places. Interned with where I'm at right now. Got the opportunity post grad. So for me, got a really good opportunity right out of college, and um, here we are covering LSU sports. Man, it's for me. I love it. I think LSU is the best beat in the world. I think it's the mecca. I love just kind of the people on the beat. I love the program. I love the facilities. I love everything about it. So I can't really complain. I love where we're at right now.
what's the facet of the game? Because I see you cover recruiting a lot, but you cover really every aspect of the game. Really hyper focused microscopically on recruiting. You break a lot of recruiting news, but what's the kind of facet of the game you love recruiting the most?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the relationships, and I think that's a pretty cliche answer. But you tell me, man. I do football, baseball, basketball, recruiting. I try to knock out all I can. What I tell everybody is, if it's purple and gold related, I try to keep my hands on it and try to do as much as I can. But in the recruiting game, man, the relationships with these high profile kids. I mean, we're in a day and age now where you're dealing with these kids who are kind of quote unquote making it before they even get to college. So it's fun kind of watching them adapt and really kind of, get their feet wet with some financial benefits early and watching how they grow and whatnot. So for me, it's the relationships and really just watching these kids evolve. It's a unique kind of time that we're in right now with the college game. Obviously, we know the summer could kind of provide some sort of regulations here, but the best part about the recruiting game for me right now is watching these kids handle business and try to adapt to having some money in their pockets and a lot of money that a lot of people won't touch. So kind of watching them kind of get adapted to that is my favorite part of recruiting.
Seriously, I think Zach that those of us who are working privileged to work in this day and age covering college sports, high school sports, that aspect, no one else will have the views that we've had, the experiences we've had, the relationships we've had with these kids, because you've seen them, like you said, handle astronomical amounts of money that most of these guys wouldn't have touched unless it was under the table in college, but no one would have known about it. It's very public how much money they've got and how much they're worth. It's a crazy time, man. And just kind of seeing them how they handle that. You've seen the kind of the ups and downs of that. It's been a wild time. Uh, who are some of the media figures, content creators, I guess you could call them as well, that you really look up to or have kind of shown you the ropes through your career?
Yeah, I think when you kind of look at guys that have kind of paved the way for me, it'd be hard for me to not sit back and appreciate a guy like Glenn West, man. He's fantastic at his craft. Showed me the way when I was kind of coming up through college. Interned under him for a while, and he's fantastic. He's a workhorse, and I think you were sitting there talking about how much content I put out myself, dude. I think I wouldn't have that type of that work ethic if it wasn't for Glenn West, man. So he's fantastic. It's nice taking little tidbits of his type of work ethic and looking at other guys. Of course, man. Like I'm still a youngster myself, man. I'm still in my mid-20s, so looking up to guys like, of course, Shea's fantastic. Somebody in my age group, Matthew Bruni's really great at his job too. Kind of,
Yes.
I'm a big fan of him and his mindset with this industry too. Bryce Coon's really getting his feet wet with the whole kind of podcasting thing. It's a whole new kind of landscape that we're entering. So he's adapting really well. There's a lot of guys that are handling business on the beat, and then look at a guy like Wilson. I mean, Wilson is such a he's a grinder himself. He's a guy who's going to go national. I mean, this guy's fantastic at what he does. He works his ass off. So it's fun. It's an interesting beat. You got a lot of different personalities, some fun guys, and it's cool watching everybody kind of continue to level up. Entering 2025, it's a tight knit group, and it's fun watching it go down.
I love that you mentioned Glenn. Man, he is so overlooked and even overlooked by me. I really didn't appreciate him as much as I could have until we had an experience in Las Vegas trying to find the media tent together for week 1 against USC. And just we were like assigned on the seating chart next to each other. So I just kind of got a chance to really hang out with him more. I absolutely love Glenn West. So I'm glad you're saying that dude's praises. Zach, I mean, this has been kind of a crazy nuts phase for LSU, for college football. LSU spring camp, no spring game, the NFL Pro Day for the 2024 guys, and then there was the draft, and of course we can't go without mentioning this: LSU losing a great Tiger in Kyron Lacey this past month. How will you personally remember Kyron Lacey?
Yeah, so man, I had the opportunity to cover Kyron when I was over covering UL, Louisiana Lafayette sports, and Kyron obviously started his career there. I had a chance to kind of watch him evolve as a player over there prior to making his stint over in Baton Rouge. So you remember him as a guy who's just passionate and a workhorse, man. He wanted to be great, and to become a wide receiver 1 for LSU is obviously an honor in itself. And to watch him evolve from being a raging Cajun to making his way over to Baton Rouge and taking over LSU as their starting receiver, it's a fantastic storyline in itself. Brian Kelly he kind of hit the nail on the head there, where he was an emotional guy, an aggressive guy, passionate, and I think when you sit down with Kyron, you get to understand that all he wants to do is be great. So obviously, the LSU community lost a great one. I was always intrigued with the story of Kyron Lacey. It's a tragic incident. Obviously, seeing all the stories and stuff and what the media is putting on from his funeral last weekend is tragic. But nonetheless, man, a guy who lived out his dream of being an LSU Tiger. It's a shame that God needed him before us, of course, from a fan perspective. But nonetheless, man, fantastic person. Fantastic person.
See, that's beautiful, and that's something you're only going to get from somebody who covered Kyron like you did. So thank you for sharing that with us, Zach. I know that question is a little tough, but we got to remember him. 2025 LSU, Zach. This team, man. Have you detected an identity of this team yet, Zach?
It's tough, man. Like we can talk about both sides of the ball here real quick. You talk offensively and your O-line. I look at it this way, man. It's a puzzle, and you got so much versatility. You got so much, not necessarily depth, but you got so many bodies that can plug and play in different spots. So for me, I look at it as really a puzzle piece, a puzzle in general, where you got to put the pieces together. You got Josh Thompson, who's as versatile as they come, can play inside and out. Where are you going to put him moving forward? You got guys like, of course, Braylon Moore and DJ Chester battling it out for starting center duties. Who's going to win out there? Who's going to get the edge coming into fall? And of course, for me, it's just about Brad Davis utilizing the resources that he has to put this together. So when I look at this team as a whole, The offensive line is really going to pave the way for how far they can go. We know games are won and lost in the trenches. That's about as cliche and casual of a take as they come. But you got a lot of bodies there that you got to put together there. So intrigued to see what happens there. And then your edge rushers, man. That's such a fantastic group. It starts with guys, of course, like Patrick Payton, Jack Pyburn, Jamari Butler. It's your trio of transfers. And you look at a guy like Gabe Relaford.
Yeah.
I got high expectations for him. So that 2 deep depth chart looks fantastic heading into 2025, and games are won and lost in the trenches. So I guess there's a reason why I kind of sat back and talked about both those position groups.
I mean, those are going to really be the offensive line. I've written about it extensively. Here you are saying it. I know a lot of people are talking about it. It could be a great offensive line. We just don't know. But like the uncertainty there, there's so many pieces to that puzzle. And like you said, is Josh Thompson better at guard? Is he better at tackle? Is Chester better at center? Is he better at guard? Who brings out the best in all those guys? We're gonna see. We've heard a lot of people doubting Brad Davis's development this last year. We're gonna see just how damn good he can develop guys and solve the puzzles to that. Solve the pieces to that puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. And it's so funny that people like to kind of sit back and critique a guy like Brad Davis, and he just had 4 offensive linemen get drafted in the NFL draft. So obviously tough critics. LSU fans are ruthless. I think that's one of the best parts of being able to cover the team is that they're so passionate. It's so fun to kind of just sit back and evaluate what these people have to say because they're passionate like us, man. Everybody who doesn't like LSU football. And I know covering the team, you got to be able to separate yourself from kind of being a fan and being a professional. But being a guy who was born and raised in Louisiana, it's hard for me to not be a fan of LSU as a whole. So exciting to see what happens with that O-line. You got Carius Kern emerging, obviously a 5-star true freshman who just looks the part out there, physically prepared. Solomon Thomas, just an absolute dude in the trenches. So you got bodies, you got guys. I'm excited to see how that puzzle piece goes together.
How many of these young guys do you think will maybe work their way into the lineup, the offensive line?
I think it starts with Carius Kern. I mean, Carius is an absolute specimen of a player out there. You walk out there in practice, and he just sticks out like a sore thumb. You saw the video that John put out of him flipping that the whatever you want to call it, I can't even think of the term right now. Flipping the thing, and it just goes to show how strong he is. So he's a freak. When I look at the young guys on the O-line, it starts with Carius Kern. Weston Davis is still a pretty young player himself. Obviously hasn't necessarily gotten any big-time SEC reps. So he's a young player that's going to come out there and hopefully turn some heads in year 1 as the starter if it continues trending in that direction. But those are 2 guys that you got to sit back and circle that can really make a difference in 2025. I fully expect Carius Kern to get some reps in one way or another in 2025. He's just too talented.
Me too. I think you don't want to put pressure on these young guys, and we know how Kelly and his staff are with playing young guys. But man, you're going to need every piece of the puzzle on the offensive line. If someone is, I feel like there are certain additions to this staff though that are going. Alex Atkins, people like that who are going to, hey, this guy's the better guy. Let's do this. Let's take this chance. Sadly, this is the first spring, Zach, that I missed since I started doing this. You were there, though. You were there for Sports Illustrated. Tell us, like, with your own eyes, who you feel not only announced themselves as, like, a great player for LSU or a contributor, but someone who's going to be a star this year during spring.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pinpoint star potential right now with a lot of these guys, but the one that really turned heads instantly is Bauer Sharp, the tight end out of Oklahoma. And I know all the buzz is going to be talking about Trey'Dez Green for good reason. I mean, he's a 5-star phenom, a guy who dominated during that bowl game when he got extended reps, extended meaningful playing time. So it's hard to not sit back, of course, and kind of talk about Trey'Dez in the tight end room and really praise him. It's fully as it should. But Bauer Sharp, I think coming out of Oklahoma, obviously led the team in receptions and receiving yards, struggled in the passing game as a whole, as a program. But, I mean, he was a bright spot for them. And during spring camp, he really looked the part out there. He's dynamic. He's balanced. He can put his hand in the dirt, make plays as a blocker, peel off, make those short yardage receptions. And then you can also move the chains as a 10 to 15-yard reception guy with those intermediate routes. So Bauer Sharp offensively is the guy to me that turns heads. Pretty excited to watch him kind of pan out moving forward. And then Sadir Mitchell, I wouldn't put star potential on his name right now, but I would definitely say that he's a guy who's going to make some impactful plays this year. Your defensive line is relatively young. You're kind of falling back on guys like Dominic McKinley, Ahmad Bro, but Sadir Mitchell's young himself, and I think you have to thrust him into the mix to let him get some snaps. I don't think it'll be, 30, 40 snaps a game, anything crazy, but I think when he's in there for his reps that he gets, he's going to make a difference.
Kind of like a JVR Suggs for us last year, but upgraded in the athleticism department, of course. This is someone who's former from Texas, not Grand Valley State. Not to knock JVR Suggs. He was fantastic last year, but there's a difference level. But very interesting that you mentioned Sadir Mitchell. I like that pick. Which Tigers do you feel on the other end of the spectrum, Zach, really need a wake-up call ahead of fall camp? Or they could be losing out on a starting spot or significant playing time altogether?
I think wake-up call when it comes down to it would really just be the wide receiver room, and not because they're going to be losing their spot or anything like that. There's a difference, I think, between losing your spot and someone overtaking your spot. I know that might sound a little ridiculous, but for me, when you're looking at that wide receiver room as a whole, Nick Anderson, Barry and Brown, you got Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, Xavier Thomas, Kyle Parker. I mean, you can go on, 6, 7 deep, where any of those guys can really take meaningful snaps in SEC ball. So for me, I think the whole receiver room needs to be out there on the field all summer doing the kind of 1,000 balls a day, whatever, or 10,000 catches a summer.
Yes.
Doing whatever you got to do to really get prepared for fall camp, because you have a lot of guys gunning for meaningful snaps, and it's going to be exciting to watch how Cortez Hankton and Joe Sloan really divvy up those snaps, because you got some talent in that room, and you got some guys coming for some big-time reps under Garrett Nussmeier as well.
That's the thing. I might be even worried about, are there too many mouths to feed here? We got to find like the core 3 or 4 guys here, but maybe that's really not going to be a worry if we just utilize everybody correctly. I hate putting you on the spot here, Zach, but if you're Scott Woodward, how much pressure, I guess is the word, are you putting on Brian Kelly to deliver a championship in 2025, or at least get on that doorstep?
Yeah, I think for me, when it comes down to it, obviously you're all in on 2025. You built up a roster. You have Garrett Nussmeier back, a returning starter under center. You've added talent offensively at the receiver position. You went out and handled business to add some depth on the defensive line. Your linebackers, you have Whit Weeks back. Your secondary is a spot where you could have some hit or miss players there. We'll see what ultimately does happen. But for me, when it ultimately comes down to it, you got to take a step at a time. I think the first step is getting to the college football playoff. From there, you continue to evolve as a coach. But I think Brian Kelly getting to the college football playoff would speak volumes. The schedule's a challenging one, Lon. I think this is a really, really difficult slate that they have, and I hope a lot of people aren't overlooking it. But to open up week 1 at Clemson, I know we call it the fake Death Valley, being guys who cover LSU and whatnot, but I mean, nonetheless, it's still an electric atmosphere with some rowdy fans. So you're going to get that wake-up call week 1, and then we'll see what the trajectory of this team is. But not to kind of dance around your question, I think Scott Woodward is obviously looking at this year under Brian Kelly with a microscope to see ultimately how they perform. But I think if you get to the college football playoff, you can consider that a solid season and continue to kind of chuck away at this and continue to take more steps year in and year out.
One main criticism, Zach, of Brian Kelly going into this season was his lack of authority, I guess it would be the word, in the transfer portal. Well, I mean, he signed 17 guys, 16 in the winter and a 17th in Bernard Gooden, like 2 days before his visit was supposed to end. Kelly, he's proven he can pay for the players with the best of them. But does LSU's season, in your opinion, depend on almost all of these transfers, like firing on all cylinders? They have to hit on these transfers?
Yeah, I think you have a really unique blend of talent here. I think you have some significant returning players. Obviously, Garrett Nussmeier, Aaron Anderson, Caden Durham. Offensively, you have some weapons to work with, but I think offensively, you have to hit on Josh Thompson. You have to hit, obviously, on Braylon Moore. You have to hope that he can contribute in the trenches. Flip-flop to the other side of the ball, and they have to hit. A good percentage of them have to hit, Lon. You have to see Patrick Payton succeed, obviously being a top transfer addition. You want to see Pyburn succeed. Jamari Butler get some big-time reps. TaMarcus Cooley is such an X factor for this team. If he's significant in the safety room, you're going to be in a really good spot. So to answer that question, I would say, yeah, I think you signed over a handful of top 100 transfers for a reason. It's not cheap in this day and age. You want to get that ROI, that return on investment. So you want to hopefully see these players pan out this season in 2025. I think you're going to see that. I think you got some players that have put in the work. Obviously, you paid a great deal to get them here. They've succeeded at their other stops. I can't see it changing any other way with them making their way to Baton Rouge. That goes for most of them. Obviously, not everybody's going to hit. Let's be realistic here. But if you can get a solid percentage of them to hit, then you're going to be in a really good spot in 2025.
With the addition, though, of Bernard Gooden, kind of beefing up that D-line, Sydir Mitchell, who you just brought up earlier, outperforming a lot of expectations through spring. McKinley and Bro's experience last year, and Jacoby and Guillory coming back earlier than expected from that Achilles. Do you consider the LSU interior D-line to still be a position of concern for you, or do you like what you're seeing there?
It's a good question. I think ultimately, I mean, you have a ton of talent in that room. It's not necessarily having these outliers that are significant. You have a good core of players. You need to see a guy like Dominic McKinley take that next step. He didn't necessarily have the opportunity to do that in 2024. He was battling that turf toe injury towards fall camp. Didn't necessarily get to have the offseason that he wanted. He was a summer enrollee, so he didn't necessarily get to have the year that he wanted, a full offseason being healthy. I think you're going to see Dominic McKinley be a guy who could potentially take that next step. Same goes for Ahmad Bro. He was still transitioning to that role last year, made an impact in year one where he exceeded expectations, man. I don't think a lot of people expected Ahmad Bro to be taking on that big of a role in year one. And then you throw in Sydir Mitchell, Shone Washington, Jacoby and Guillory getting healthy, Bernard Gooden. You have a rotation that's extremely solid and can put on some big-time reps if need be. Obviously, no outlier, kind of all-American that we're looking at right now. But you have pieces that if they pan out, can put you in a really good position in the trenches because you got to stop the run and you got to stop the mobile quarterback. So we'll see how these guys do. But I think you're in a really good spot with the players that you have in the trenches. I'm not circling it as that big of a concern anymore after adding Gooden.
Neither am I. I thought if Sydir Mitchell, like people were saying, and kind of the snap counts, the injuries that he had at Texas, some of the performances, you're like, okay, maybe this guy is going to be a 10 to 15 snap contributor. Who knows what we're going to get? He looked awesome at times in camp. So, you've also brought up Shone Washington, a guy I forgot about. That's another thing about this team, Zach, is there's always like, you think you know every guy in the position. Oh, I forgot about that dude who's a former 4-star or whatever. Like, LSU are a lot deeper than people know or think of. But and I know we've lost a lot of talents in the draft, the portal, but depth in the portal more likely, talents in the draft. But this team is still so deep. People don't even think of like a guy like Kyle Parker. He started the first 3 games of last year. He could find himself being 7th or 8th in the depth chart of receiver. Zach, outside of quarterback, which is an obvious, where are the areas of this roster that you think that will decide how deep this team can go in the playoffs, or if they will even get there? And I know you brought up offensive line, so that's probably where you're going to go with.
I'll shift gears here, though. I think for me, realistically, the offensive line is obviously going to determine a lot on this team. But you got to look at the safety room. I mean, you have TaMarcus Cooley in the mix. You have Javian Toviano, who's starting to take strides. You obviously have Deshaun Spears, who to me, man, I think if he takes that next step, you're going to be in a really, really good spot back there. I love the physical tools that Deshaun Spears has. He's long, he's lanky, he's twitchy, he has quick hips. I really like what Deshaun Spears provides this team. But nonetheless, if you don't have those guys perform and you don't have those guys take that next step, I think you could be in a great deal of trouble. I think you need to get Jordan Gilbert healthy again, coming off of that shoulder injury. But I think when you're talking about positions that are going to make or break your team, obviously O-line on offense is where I'm going to circle and kind of pencil that in. But defensively, it's the safety room. You need TaMarcus Cooley to hit. A minute ago, we were talking about transfers that probably need a hit. TaMarcus Cooley is one of them, a fantastic player who I really think if he hits, you're going to be in a good spot. have Javian Toviano take that next step. Jordan Gilbert get healthy. Obviously, you have Deshaun Spears. No one's talking about Joel Rogers, who had a pretty good camp himself. So there are bodies there. There's a reason that this staff isn't necessarily pressing the panic button on the safety room. Obviously, if you can go out and secure a coveted player, you go and do that. But the guys that you have right now, you have a lot of serviceable pieces that you can utilize in 2025.
And if they add AJ Halsey, which is looking like, is as possible as him going to Miami right now, LSU right in that fight, that really upgrades things even more. But like you said, Tamarcus Cooley hits at the safety position, man. Oh, you feel so much better about that safety spot. Toviano, if Cooley is excelling, Toviano, you feel like he'll come along with him. You feel like as a tandem they could work together. I saw some moments in spring studying the film where they looked great together. I saw some moments that were worrying, but that's what you're going to get when you're facing such elite receivers and tight ends and a really good offense from LSU. Just last two questions, and then we'll get you out of here, Zach. Garrett Nussmeier, he had, a tough season in a way when you look at the film concerning what was breaking down around him. No real sustained running game, offensive line injuries, and maybe the receiving core lackadaisical at times, stuff like that. But poor execution, maybe some poor playing calling at times. But when you also look at the film, you see a quarterback who can make every throw, who really is the perfect leader for this locker room. He's as tough of a competitor as you'll find. Zach, what growth have you seen in spring, and what leaps are you looking for fall camp?
Yeah, I think when it comes to Garrett, the best word to describe year one as the starter was roller coaster. I think you saw him hit at times and just thread the needle. He can make all the throws, Lon. This is a guy who is an NFL signal caller, and he's going to be at the top of draft boards heading into the year for good reason. I mean, he can do it all. And I'm really intrigued to watch his growth heading into year two. But speaking of that growth, things that he needs to continue to work on is obviously decision making. I think that's something that's going to be with him living and dying not living and dying, but really living and dying in the film room alongside Joe Sloan. I think he needs to eat, sleep, breathe that room with Joe Sloan. We know what Joe Sloan can do for these players. We saw him do it with Jaden. So I think if he can just do that alongside, of course, Garrett as well, you'll be in a really good spot. I think Garrett's one of the top quarterbacks in America for good reason. He showcased his arm talent. It's just the decision-making that needs to continue to improve in order for him to hit that next gear. And I think heading into this year, he's going to do that. I think he has that kind of calm, cool, collected mentality now, that kind of been there, done that mindset. He's played in the SEC now. He's played against the top competition. He went to College Station. It might not have gone as planned, but he went there and he experienced that. And I think that's a big one for him to get under his belt. I think you're going to see a whole new Garrett Nussmeier in 2025, one that's smarter with the football, still going to thread the needle. He's still kind of trying to shed that gunslinger narrative, but he's going to thread the needle all he can and really allow this offense to be more dynamic. I think with a more rushing attack, the more rushing attack you have, the less pressure on him and the more predictable or less predictable the offense will be. So I think you're going to see a whole new different side of Garrett this year. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I mean, year two, LSU quarterbacks, year two starting, Mettenberger, Burrow, Daniels. Can Nussmeier continue that? I absolutely think he can. I think he's got the experience to do that. I think he's got the football brain really to my dad's just won a ring. I want to take that next step. I saw Jaden Daniels do this up close and personal. I want to do that. Burrow's his idol. We already know he's going to be big in the next year's draft. Nuss, I am rooting for him like crazy to take that next step. I want it so desperately for him, Zach. Final question, my brother. This is going to be a weird one. Can this 2025 LSU squad lose to Clemson in week one, Zach, and still achieve their goals? Or is that first game just that pivotal from a psychological perspective?
Yeah, I don't want to kind of underestimate that game. I mean, that's a pivotal game where you win that game and you set yourself up to really punch your ticket to the college football playoff. You put yourself in a really good position if you win that game. You lose it and your back's up against the wall. Obviously, you have a challenging slate for the foreseeable future with the SEC play coming up. So for me, you lose that game, and I think you still have an opportunity to make the college football playoff. You can make the college football playoff going 9-3 now with an SEC slate. You get those big-time meaningful wins, obviously Bama, Ole Miss, Florida, etc. It's a gauntlet of a schedule, but to answer that question, even if you lose week 1, you still have a chance to make the college football playoff. You truly do. Is your back up against the wall and it's going to be a challenge? No doubt. But you lose week 1 and there's still an opportunity. There's still an opportunity to make it.
I'm just wondering. I mean, of course, there's still an opportunity. I'm just wondering that this team has a lot of inexperienced, kind of unproven guys when you're talking about offensive line, some of the safety positions, receiver. There's some guys coming up who maybe haven't done it in the SEC before or haven't done it at LSU in the SEC before. And Nussmeier, of course, still has some stuff to prove to maybe some national talking heads, things like that. No running game last year, of course, as well. This is a team I feel like we're going to find out how tough they are in that first game, obviously, if they can get the win. But if they lose that game as well, we're going to also find out a hell of a lot about them mentally as well. I mean, it's going to be so interesting, man, to see what happens in that
game. That's a fair assessment, Lon. Like when you look at it, like how do you respond to adversity? We've seen Brian Kelly, his programs respond to adversity relatively well over the last couple of seasons. Obviously, you lose the season opener, but you still put yourself in position to potentially make the college football playoff. Obviously, not get over that hump just yet, but you've seen them rebound really well. So you want to start the season off right. We don't want to put that bad mojo into the air and say, well, if they lose, blah, blah, blah. You know, you and I, we want to see that team win. We've talked about it here time and time again. So excited to see week 1, man. That's going to be just an absolute, just a phenomenal matchup. Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, bright lights, fake Death Valley. I'm excited to see how it goes down, man. It's going to be a really fun one. I'm excited to see what happens, but obviously you want to start the season off right. Excited to see how this team rolls out there on August 30th at Clemson.
I cannot wait for that game. Zach, thank you so much for joining us, my brother. Let's do this again if you're down. I absolutely love talking LSU football with you, brother.
Yeah, my man. Let's do it anytime.
Zack Nagy of Sports Illustrated joining us. Everybody, have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Wow. Crazy. Awesome to talk to Zack Nagy. That dude knows his stuff. I love talking to someone about LSU where they're like, they're not afraid to have a different opinion. They're not afraid to challenge you on something. They're not afraid to push on something. And it's not just an echo chamber. And that's what we're trying to provide LSU fans here is like, we want to share as many opinions, as many viewpoints, as many perspectives from as many different people as we possibly can. The voices that you want to hear, the people you want to hear from. That's what we'll try and provide. And Zack Nagy, well-loved, well-liked, well-followed in the LSU media industry. And we were very, very privileged and happy to have him on with us tonight. And hopefully we will have him on again because I enjoyed that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And have a good rest of your night. And we'll be joining you tomorrow for the Friday Live. Join us for that. We may have a certain guest. And that guest will probably blow your mind. It'll blow my mind if this guest actually even shows up. But I think at this point, they're going to. Because there's some things that they want to get off their chest. Let's just say that. Controversy of LSU's past, we'll just say. Everybody, have a good rest of your night. Thank you so much for joining us and for watching this. Have a good night.